Hello students, welcome to the notes part of the poem The Farmer's Wife. Let us see some answers to some of the questions from this poem. Why has the speaker's husband committed suicide? The farmer was in debt and had no crops to sell. He was unable to bear the shame and was unwilling to stretch his hand for help. Being hounded by creditors, he committed suicide. Second one, what series of contrasts does the speaker draw between herself and her husband? The speaker says that her husband was virtuous, but she is a sinner, and he is dead while she is alive. There is irony in this series of contrasts because the farmer, unable to bear the shame, committed suicide without wondering what would be the plight of his wife left behind to face the creditors. Next one. What expressions in the poem bring out the contrast between the speaker and her husband's plight? What difference does it indicate? Being a man, the farmer was not used to being subservient to others. He could not bear the idea of bending his head in front of the creditors. But being a woman, the farmer's wife was used to obedience and harsh treatment and could pull on even when insulted and deprived. Moreover, being a woman, her motherly instinct made it impossible for her to leave her children behind at the mercy of fate. Though the prospect of bringing up 4 children in the face of stark poverty is daunting, she faces the challenge and doesn't take resource to the easier escape route of suicide. Thus, we see that the difference between the man and woman lies in the way men and women are generally treated in society and the way in which men treat women at home. But the saving grace is the fact that the injustice meted out to women in society and at home makes them strong and gives them the courage to embrace life and struggle for life. Next one. What memories of her husband trouble her now? The woman was still ill treated by her husband in his drunken state. He had abused her both physically and verbally when he was alive. But all this was accepted by the woman because society had made her believe that the man had that right to rule over his wife and even abuse her when displeased, as he was the master who went out in the world while she was to deal with the family problems. But this idea of the man gets beaten when the farmer is unable to withstand the pressure and commits suicide. Now, the woman has to shoulder the responsibility of both work and home. Naturally, the woman has all negative memories of the man who did no justice to her when alive and did a greater injustice to her by embracing death. The poet wants to point out that all of us sympathize with the man who was driven to commit suicide. The plight of woman who has to fend for herself is worse than that of the man who is dead and thereby free of all problems. Fifth one. What does the phrase harvest of the womb suggest? Why is their plight compared to worn out cotton pod? The phrase harvest of the womb refers to the 4 children the woman has borne. Just as the field produces the crop and has the harvest, the woman has produced children. If she, like her husband, takes the easier way out by committing suicide, the children will be left behind like the worm eaten cotton pod. The woman makes it clear that if the children do not have the parent figure to nourish them, they would be like the unripe cotton pods. They cannot reach their mature stage of growth. The poet deliberately uses the simile which compares the orphaned children to worm eaten cotton pods because it was in cotton growing areas that the highest number of farmers committed suicide. Sixth one, to what condition had her husband's act of committing suicide pushed her? Her husband's act of committing suicide has pushed her to a state which is worse than death. The woman uses the word death blow to show that the death blow of poison which put an end to the farmer's life is easier than the death blow that the wife has to experience in terms of money, dignity, and complexity of bringing up the children without any support. Let us see some more answers in the next class. Thank you.